An art museum curator or director has to be well versed in aesthetics, culture, history, and artistic technique, as well as estate planning, tax codes, and a slew of other factors to bring in new acquisitions. Downstairs at the Norman Rockwell Museum in a locked room, director Lori Norton Moffat talks about a new piece being prepared for viewing.
This is another recent donation to the Norman Rockwell Museum. The young girl walking in front of the no swimming sign, and she's closing her eyes to pretend she doesn't see it.
So now that the painting is in the museum's keep, the hard part is over. Doing the research on the piece, finding out where it was being held, developing a relationship over 20-plus years with the painting's owner, now the original Rockwell can be paired up with its counterpart, no swimming illustration, but with a whole new story off the canvas.
The model for this painting was the man's wife, Virginia, and she was the young girl who posed in this picture, and she kept this painting her entire lifetime. And after her death, she had always wanted it to come to the Norman Rockwell Museum, and her husband at age 90 called us up, and he said, I want the painting to come to the museum now in honor of my wife.
So Martin Mahoney, the museum's manager of collections and registration, had to fly down to Jackson, Mississippi, make arrangements for packaging at another museum, and safely transport the painting back to the Berkshires. And that's just one new acquisition they were fortunate enough to receive as a donation. Rockwell's curator, Joyce Schiller, says their deputy director built a strong enough relationship with another collector that she was gifted with a major contribution to the museum's Center for American Visual Studies.
A small painting unframed by Winfield Lukens. That was a wonderful gift. Stephanie has a long relationship with the illustrator Wendell Miner, who's also on our board. And she was visiting him to do something else and had been admiring over the years a painting in his study. And it's this Winfield Lukens painting. And she was talking about it this last December with him and talking about how much she loved it, and he took it off the wall and handed it to her. And it came up to the museum.
Moffat says making the case to a collector to donate to Rockwell means knowing how much they value their most prized possessions.
Collectors are incredibly passionate about their work, and they love their objects like children, and really think of each object as a living being. And so often a certain point comes in people's lives where they start to think about what will happen to my collection in the future.
And with prices continuing to rise, the Norman Rockwell Museum might seem like the best place to protect an investment.
And in some cases, in Rockwell's case, as the works have increased in value so much over the years, some people who owned them started to feel nervous about having them in their home. And they were delighted, actually, to see them come on loan in the museum where we could provide the climate control and the security and the care for the artwork rather than having it in your own personal living room.
Moffat also has to know what tax benefits are available to folks who decide to sell their paintings below market value and how that might fit into the individual's vision for estate planning and the future of their family's welfare. So once an owner agrees to either donate or loan their works to the museum, then there's even more layers to go through before it's ready for exhibition.
To finding out about the copyrights and intellectual property rights on a work of art, are you able to reproduce it or not? And in the case of illustration art, often that copyright might be owned by a publisher or by the commercial company that commissioned the greeting cards or the soda advertisement, so there is a legal aspect that you have to know about the art as well.
And if that's not enough, Schiller says every so often there's the conversation about where to put the piece and whether the owner is happy with that.
You try to work with somebody and show them, if you're selling them an idea for an exhibition that their piece will be part of, you're trying to show them the larger issue and how showcasing their object in a certain way will help it, not just fight with what's next to it. You hope nothing fights.
The pieces mentioned in this story, as well as several others, are all part of Norman Rockwell Museum's new acquisitions. Log on to WAMC.org for pictures and more information. Charlie Dietz, WAMC News.